I bought a new scope. This is my 22, which you guys may be familiar with. It's the Bagara in the KRG chassis, and I've been running the XTRIII on it because I've gotten really used to that reticle. However, this is also the same scope I use for the 6mm Creedmoor. And when I say same scope, not same model, this is the exact same scope. And I have, every time I've changed which gun I've been shooting, even if it's in the same day, I've been grabbing it off and putting it on. I'll be honest, that worked heaps better than I thought it was gonna be. It's been really repeatable, really reliable to go back on exactly where I wanted it. I haven't even had to zero it. I've checked it pretty much every time and made no adjustments. So that has been excellent, but there is a downside for two reasons. One, having to do that every single time is not ideal, but it does work. And secondly, this is a 5.5 to 30 times zoom scope. Now on a centerfire, that has been fantastic. On a rimfire, while you can sit it down at 5, 6 power, the reticle is so far zoomed out that it becomes a little harder to use. So the ratio of that reticle between that magnification, whereas you sort of topped out that reticle at 30 zoom, is not ideal. Recently, the Burris XTRIII in the smaller magnification arrived in Australia, and I was fortunate enough to grab one of those. So let me take this one off, which is relatively easy to do, and I will put that one on. Now, having said that, I do have plans for this, so I won't put that too far away. I think that should be everything we need. So we've got the Burris XTRIII. This is a 3.3 to 18 by 50 mil, which I think is going to be better suited for the rimfire one. Running a Porter machine uni mount. Looking forward to finally running a set of those. And then I've got the cap to match this one here, so I can draw all over the turrets, which keeps Josh amused during stages or mid-stage. And then also a throw lever to make it easier to run that zoom. So let me grab this all out and we'll put it all together. This is the 3.3 to 18 by 50, which I think is going to be the right balance between the reticle and the magnification for the 22 setup. Now, a couple of things it comes with: the flip-up caps out of the box comes with those. They're average quality. The back one looks pretty reasonable. The front's probably going to get changed out for a Vortex Defender at some point. It also comes with this optional windage exposed turret. So they come set up that they've got a capped turret for wind, which is great because I generally don't adjust my windage at all. I leave it as is and hold, a very rare exception. But if that's not the way you roll, which is fair enough, you can take that off, replace it with that, and then that will be sort of an exposed turret for your windage, which is a really good option. I won't use it. I prefer the cap turrets on windage, but it's nice that it comes with that. This is also the sunshade that it comes with. I generally don't use sunshades, only in significant circumstances, so that one will probably go back in the box. The two accessories I've upgraded for this one is the switch throw or quick throw lever, depending which brand calls it different things, and that will sit around between these two knurled parts here, and that makes this a whole stack easier to adjust. You'll see on this one here, just makes it much easier. This is one of my favorites because it's got that large piece that, with your thumb or your finger you can grab. Some of the other ones are quite small, and I really prefer the Burris version. The other thing I've got on there is the cap that you can ride on. The white cap, just that comes off, that goes on, it'll match that. And I've found that really useful. I've done that a lot of matches where I've written where my particular targets are. That means you don't need data cards on the side or anything along those lines. It's just straight on there, look straight at it and dial around to the correct target. As for mounts, this is the Porter uni mount in 34mm, and this has got 7mm of adjustment or of angle in there. So that should be a nice complement to what I've got on here. Let's kick things off and get that mounted. Now, I generally like to mount my scopes as far back as they will go. That is not common practice. Most people will mount them further forward than I will, just the way my eye likes to get behind the scopes. Now, one thing I want to be really mindful of is not fouling the bolt. So I'm going to take that off there, and the magazine in and the rounds in there. Just going to make sure that bolt clears the back of the mount. So we'll get that on there, torque wrench out. Supports is nice enough to include all the details with the screws of what torque settings to do everything up to. So this is meant to be 50 inch-pounds, so we shall do that. Now, when we're mounting this one up, I want to make sure it's as far forward as possible. There's not a lot of slop in these Porter mounts, but just making sure that it sits forward right up against that, so it's got the tension on the front of it. And let's go all the way up to the click. All right, excellent. Now let's get that scope. Before we do that, let's put these accessories on. This one here just slides on over, and then you've just got to choose exactly where you want to lock that down. I'm going to have a look at my other scope, see where I've put that on. It's about the midpoint of the magnification. I'll show you why that's important in a moment. Squeeze that together till it's tight. All right, so we're doing that up there, and I'm approximately about sort of halfway in the travel. The reason it's important is because this thing sticks out a fair bit, and you don't want it to interfere with your bolt, but you also don't want to cut off your amount of magnification you can play with. So once we get this locked in, we're going to definitely test that throw lever and make sure it's not interfering with anything. Next thing I'll do is change this turret over. So this one's quite easy to set and to replace. There's just 2 grub screws like that. Undo those 2. Maybe I should have done the scope up before I'm playing with the turret. We're committed now, we're in, we're doing this. That's it there, just make sure that 0 point lines up, although of course when we go out and shoot it, we'll be changing that. But for the time being, that's looking good. Let's get these ring caps on, line up the logos as well, and open this one up. Grab a torque wrench out. So these are for 17 inch-pounds. So let's change this one over. This is the Vortex torque wrench, which I've been using for years. It's been super reliable. So just gonna get them all in there first. Scope is on there now. It's got a little bit of movement, sort of both forward and backwards and left to right, and that's intentional at this stage. What I want to do, I'm just going to nip that up just so it locks it in a little bit more so I can test out this throw lever. So I want to make sure that I can get full travel around to 18 power and also down to 3.3 without interfering. So you can imagine if that was a little bit to one side, we might have hit that bolt if it was there. So got to always check that. Go the full length of the travel, and then you can just move that along as needed. From here, I need to do 2 things. I need to work out how far forward or how far back that scope needs to be for my eye to pick it up. Now that can be difficult in this sort of environment. The wall is about 1 meter that way. So we haven't got a lot of room there to do that. I actually prefer to do this part of the setup in the field, on the range ideally. The other thing we need to do is to level the reticle. Now there's a few ways people will do that. They will level out the gun and then put that on level against the turret. That's a really good sort of easy, quick way to get that, but there's no guarantee your turret is directly flat compared to your reticle. The other thing is that I don't always necessarily level the reticle to be perfect to the gun. My position of the rifle when I'm behind it is slightly canted, but when I'm in that position, I want the scope to be dead flat. So I will usually level my scopes out in the field, preferably with a plumb line down range. So basically a rope with a rock on it, and that way I have something dead straight down range that I can do that. So for the time being, I am going to bring this scope sort of as far back as I need to from my eye, get that comfortable, and then I am going to go flat off the turret, but as a temporary solution until we do actually put it out on the range. The other thing I will put on here as well is a bubble level. So I can match that bubble level to the reticle, so no matter which camp the gun is on, I know exactly that that scope is going to be spot on. So I'll just loosen that off again, so this scope has a little bit of movement in it again, and now I'm going to get down behind the rifle as best I can, running on a fairly low power because we don't have the room here. All I want to do here is bring myself down behind the gun with my eyes closed so I can open up. What I want to be doing is to be looking through that scope and have it perfectly clear the whole way. You don't want to have that big black shadow, black ring if I was too far forward or too far back. I think it just needs to come back a little bit, a couple of mil. Let's do the same thing again. Nice and comfortable behind the gun. Open my eye up and I'm seeing crisp edge all the way around. I might just need to drop this down a little bit. This is a little bit of a lower mount than I had previously, and this one was so high because it was going on multiple guns. This one's probably could go a little lower, but it doesn't really need to. We can account for that in the app to generate the correct ballistics accordingly. And this is adjustable, so as long as I can get comfortable behind the gun, that's really all that's important, not how high off the barrel this is. All right, let's get comfortable again, looking good, open the eye up, and every edge, every part of it is crisp as. Yeah, looking good, very happy with that. What I would now do is to level the gun out and put a bubble level on there as a temporary solution to getting the scope level. We've got a cool little device here that we can do that with. It's not always easy to get the gun completely level, especially if you don't have flat points on it. So this little device here allows us to mount that scope off the gun onto something that is level and nice and easy. Just take note of which slots they are in. So we'll do this up on here. Right, so this has a bubble level, so just align that accordingly. We're looking good there. I'll throw this on the turret and let's get an approximate level. That's looking good there. I'm actually going to do it up while I'm here because it can change a little bit as you tension these rings up. So keep an eye on that. Seeing a little bit of movement, that scope. As I said, this is only a bit of a temporary thing just to get it at least close and underway. And then that way, usually, once you get in the field, it's a very minimal movement just to bring it perfectly flat on most scopes I've tried. Sort of doing these up opposite so that they keep it like an even amount of gap on both sides of the ring is the idea. Bring it back over to the rifle and we'll do that one up. Now if you don't have one of these, which you probably don't, it's fair enough, on this particular rifle there's a flat spot there, you can chuck a bubble level on there and use that as your reference. Otherwise you can get some kits that go inside and there are a couple other ways to do it. There is a barrel mounted level option as well, or you can even go from the underside of the scope to the mount. That also works as well, but as I said, I generally shoot slightly canted with the rifle, and so therefore I want my scope not to be married exactly to the rifle, otherwise I'm sort of fighting my natural aiming point. We'll do that back up on here, making sure we push the scope further forward, because of course the recoil is going to come, not on the 22, but as a general rule, the recoil is going to come this way, and so if you're mounted back, there's going to be a little bit of a gap where that mount can move forward, so we want to keep the tension that way. Do these ones up there and chuck all that away. We should be good to get that out on the range, tweak that level, make sure it's bang on, and then let's get that zeroed and be good to go. For the next match, should be running this one. As for this one's going to end up on the 6mm Creedmoor. But there are a few changes in the works because I've got some good news. This arrives, which means the 6mm Creedmoor barrel is coming off and the 6GT barrel is going on. I will then have a 2-3 trainer that this is going to switch between. Stay tuned for some more shooting, some more guns, getting this out in the field and giving it a go. Cheers. Which could be so I'm a rapper now.
Yep.
Alright.
Insert Mr. Beast explosion.
Gay tigers! Everywhere! That went the wrong way.
That's what she said! And a half.
Yeah, right. Sick. Ah! Sorry, Ian, I dropped your stuff.